Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. I'm officially back after a long summer break because now this weekend we have actual football. Not just practice anymore, not just training camp anymore, real, actual live football that we get to sit down, dissect, analyze, do all the fun things, and actually watch on our TV, watch on our televisions across the country, across the world, and that is glorious in my opinion. So the Bills open preseason when they host the New York Giants at Highmark Stadium this weekend. So I'm going to preview that like I always do. If you saw any of our preseason game previews last year, it'll be formatted exactly like that. If you didn't and you're hopping in here for the first time this year, welcome for the ride, if you will, for this season. I greatly appreciate you guys coming in after this long break. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Before we get into the nitty gritty, if you will, and talk about players to watch and all that fun stuff, let's get the formalities out of the way. So, preseason week one, the Buffalo Bills host the New York Giants in Highmark Stadium to open the preseason, to officially, technically open the 2025 NFL season from a preseason perspective, at least. So it will take place on Saturday, August 9th, and Bills preseason games has usually been in the evening, but I kind of like it this year. So Saturday, August 9th at 1 o'clock p.m. And you can find that nationally televised. So everyone across the country, it's not just a local CBS thing like usual, nationally televised on NFL Network. So once again, let me reiterate, the Buffalo Bills host the New York Giants at Highmark Stadium on Saturday, August 9th at 1 o'clock p.m. on NFL Network. That's the formalities. That's how you can consume the game, if you so please, which you should. So just here are my general thoughts heading into this first Bills preseason game. We say this every year, but this roster is very, very talented in my opinion. Sure, are there some weaker, unproven areas than others, like maybe the corner, maybe the DB room as a whole, maybe the wide receiver room as a whole? Sure, but overall, we have a ton of experience that I love, especially a ton of youth that I love, and especially hammer this point home, especially on defense. And that was evidenced by the Bills attacking the defense, if you will, by 7 of their 9 picks in the NFL draft back in April were on defense. First 5 picks in a row were on defense. The only that weren't were tight end Jackson Hawes, who's tight end 3, looking like, and offensive tackle Chase Lunt, who's battling with like Ryan Vandermark and a couple other names to be O lineman 9/10 and get one of those backup swing tackle spots, if you will. So, I mean, this roster's loaded, tons of competition, which we will go over each and every camp battle, starting or otherwise. But just overall, I really like the youth here, and a couple spots, mainly the D line, have gotten an infusion of youth that I really love, and then other areas as well. I'm expecting at minimum, guys, at the very least, for this defense to be top 10 to 12 in a bunch of metrics. There's no excuses anymore. I know Max Hairston got injured, but other than that, there's no excuses anymore. Coverage, top 10 to 12. D-line pressure / sack numbers better be top 10 to 12 at minimum. If they can push inside that crack top 7, 8, awesome. But at minimum, it better be top 10, 12 in a bunch of metrics. You have a bunch of experience coaching on the staff. Al Holcomb, defensive staff. Sean McDermott mainly. Bobby Babich, obviously. Al Holcomb. Marcus West. Ryan Nielsen. A bunch of experience coaching. All who have been defensive coordinators in this league except for Marcus West. But that's neither here nor there. But this defense better be rocking and rolling to go. Now, I say this every single year. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 12 players that I don't think. Now, this is inevitable. They probably will play at least a quarter or so in the second preseason game, most likely. But 12 players here that I think should not play a single snap in the preseason whatsoever because they're either old, aging veterans, or they're just too important to the team, or they've just been around for a while and they don't need preseason reps, in my opinion. Give the younger guys a leash to go play, if you will, and unleash them, if you will. And these aren't injury guys. We'll get to those in a minute. But first, QB Josh Allen. I say this literally every single year. I don't want him taking a single snap. Josh Allen, MVP. He's the equivalent to the president in the city of Buffalo. So We ain't putting him out there to trip on someone's ankle in preseason. Or I know everyone says, wow, to get preseason, to get reps with your team, you have to play football, and to get count. Do that in practice. Do that in training camp. This isn't Cam Ward, some rookie or some unproven guy. This is Josh freaking Allen. We can't be having that. Tight end Dawson Knox. I really need a big bounce back from Dalton Kincaid, like I need air. So I want to see a ton of him in preseason. But Dawson Knox, we know how valuable he is to this team. Have Dalton Kincaid, Jackson Hawes, Zach Davidson, a couple of the other UDFA guys take over for him, if you will. We don't need Dawson Knox trotting out there just to block. He's been around for a while. And then our franchise cornerstones at tackles, left tackle Deion Dawkins and right tackle Spencer Brown. I think that speaks for itself. Literally elite tackles at their position, even especially Deion Dawkins. He's endeared himself in Buffalo. What a personality, especially in Hard Knocks last night. That's another thing. Keep it up with Hard Knocks. Really fun. So, yeah. And then a couple of D tackles are starting to D tackle at Oliver's to the point where now I was disappointed with him last season, but have the young guys, ton of youth in this D tackle room that I'm very enthused with and excited for, if you will. And then defensive tackle Daquan Jones. He's an aging vet, and he really showed his age last year, in my opinion. So we don't need to have him play. And then linebackers, Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. We know Matt Milano's injury history. Don't risk it in preseason. And then Terrell Bernard's just getting back from that hamstring injury he was nursing early in camp. He's been limited the last few days anyway, if at all. So we don't need that. Two corners, one that got paid last year, one got paid this year, being Christian Benford and Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson starting slot corner, who's been around forever as well. And corner Christian Benford just got that super deal, which I personally thought was a value, but we don't need to risk him out there. So there's the 12 players. Now, distinction here. Players that likely won't play in first. I'm not saying they won't play at preseason at all due to injury. Maybe hopefully they can come back. But for right now, so today's Wednesday, August 6th. 3 days from now, Saturday, August 9th is the game. So these are 5 players that likely won't play in first preseason game due to injury. So 2 right off the bat that we for sure know: wide receiver Khalil Shakir and corner Max Hairston. Max Hairston was likely going to be the week 1 starter. Even if he does come back a few days for week 1, there ain't no way he's starting over Troy White. He can be a healthy reserve, maybe get in some dime packages and what have you, but there ain't no way he's starting over Troy White, missing all those reps. Troy White, I'm excited to see in the preseason, but they won't play at all. This first preseason game, running back James Cook, this isn't injury related, this is contract related. I don't know who the hell he's listening to, where all of a sudden 9 days in, 10 days into camp, they're telling him, dude, don't practice. Yeah, that will show him. Well, Kyrie Williams is today just signed a 3-year, $33 million deal. That freaking buries James Cook in terms of the nonsense he's pulling. What do you think he quote unquote deserves? I'm not going about 12. Offer him 3 years, $36 million, call it a freaking day. And if he doesn't accept it, grant him permission to seek a trade and squeeze as much value out of that situation, if you will, if you can. So James Cook contract related. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel. It's not a major injury, but he's always nicked up with a hamstring injury. I would try to find any trade partner possible. It seems like they really like Elijah Moore. I'm so excited for Josh Palmer in year 2. With Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore additions, there's really no need for Curtis Samuel. And, the human joystick element of him, he can take handoffs out of the backfield. He can take screens to the house on any given play on any given day, if you will, but that went horribly last year. And then center Cedric Van Pran Granger. This is really disappointing. We obviously know Alec Anderson is the backup swing interior lineman guy, whether that's at left guard, right guard, or most notably mainly center behind Connor McGovern. But, Van Pran Granger's, I love that pick last year in the 5th round. It's unfortunate that he hasn't practiced at all yet. And then, surprise, surprise, we have linebacker Balin Spector. He freaking is, weekly calf injury or muscle pull or whatever. I'm done. Just kick him up, boot him off the team. I don't know why they have a weird obsession with this guy. They love Balin Spector. Don't ask me why Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and Bobby Babich and all of them love Balin Spector so much. He's literally always injured. The minute he comes off IR, he goes back on IR. The minute he starts practicing, he pulls the hamstring. He can't even get up and walk to a grocery store in the morning without going, I pulled my hamstring. Or, I strained my calf. I'm sorry to sound harsh, but that's just what it is. Then linebacker Shaq Thompson, 31 years old, going on 32 now. He obviously has experience with Sean McDermott, but Carolina days. He surprisingly looks really good in camp. I was excited to see him in preseason, but he probably won't play in this game at least. And then players who won't play at all this year due to injury, like at all in this preseason, not just this game, all 3 games leading up to cutdown day. We have 4 players. I obviously mentioned Khalil Shakir, high ankle sprain, which is 3 to 4 to 5 weeks from the other day, earlier this week. Right now, unfortunately, I'd say he probably misses week 1. He probably doesn't play week 1, which stresses the importance of Dalton Kincaid covering underneath in the middle of the field. But we'll get to that in the 4 or 5 weeks or so, or whenever that is. Jesus, I cannot wait. Anyway, freaking awesome. But that's Khalil Shakir. And then Max Hairston, I already explained it with the Trey White battle. I don't think it's a battle anymore. But that's valuable reps he's missing as a rookie. And then safety Cole Bishop, he missed all of training camp in preseason last year with an injury. Looks like he's going to miss all preseason training camp this year with a hamstring injury. I know they want it to be in everyone, Bills Mafia mostly for the most part, except me maybe. A couple other people, I don't know. Wants it to be Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop as the starting safety duo. But I think DeMar Hamlin is going to have to play start a lot more games than we think this year. And Jordan Hancock might even be more impressive in Cam Lewis battle there. Important, rather. So look out for DeMar Hamlin. Maybe not by choice, but he might have to. And then interior offensive lineman Alec Anderson. I can't remember what they call it. Last week he had his knee scoped or a minor knee procedure. Either way, week to week, he could start the season on PUP, I guess, but we'll see. This is really our 2 backup centers. That's why they signed Dan Feeney, at 31 years old, to be the backup center and play the majority of snaps this game, probably in place of Connor McGovern. But both backup centers, Alec Anderson and Cedric Van Granger, unfortunately hurt, and I doubt they'll play in the preseason and all this year, especially Alec Anderson. Just had his knee scoped, minor procedure, whatever they call it. Now, position battles to watch in preseason this year. I have 6 position battles that stuck out to me right away. Went through this whole roster, whether it's starting spots, depth spots, fringe roster guys. We talk about all of it. QB2, which is the battle of Mitch Trubisky versus Mike White. Compared to other QB2 battles around the league, this isn't all that inspiring. I would watch for a guy to get cut loose like Jameis Winston of the Giants if they feel comfortable with Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart as a rookie right away. And then I would sign Jameis Winston. But we have Mitch Trubisky versus Mike White for now. And from what I've seen and just my personal thoughts, I've thought this for the last year or so and in preseason last year. Mike White seems to be a little bit ahead of Mitch Trubisky. And they can save like $2 million, which is pretty damn significant against the cap for a backup quarterback who probably won't even win the QB2 / backup quarterback job. Like, I don't care if he's one of Josh Allen's best friends, excuse me. I'd roll with Mike White, but ideally you'd get someone like Jameis Winston in the building on cutdown day. But for now, deal what we have. My prediction is Mike White wins the QB2 job. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. And now we have 5 or 6 guys here that could push for a potential wide receiver 6 job. I say potential. Excuse me. I say potential wide receiver 6 spot because you have, in my opinion, 5 locks. Barring a Curtis Samuel trade, which I would try to find a trade partner, but I don't think anyone's gonna take the contract and just the nicked up history here and there. 5 locks, in my opinion, in no specific order, are Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, and then for this exercise, Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore. That's top 5. But they could carry 6 wide receiver guys because none of those 5 really bring special teams upside in terms of covering kicks and punts whatsoever. So the guys in the running for this are Deion Kane, UFL standout last year, was in the Bills preseason camp and preseason games mainly with the Bills for preseason, last year. He brings a speed element. KJ Hamler, same thing, speed element. Caden Prather I kind of put on here. I haven't heard a peep about him in training camp. I think he's been injured, but I only put him on there because he was a 7th-round pick, so I guess he technically has draft capital over these guys, if you want to even call it that. Tyrell Shavers is someone I've really liked over the past few years. I just think, like, 3rd year, think about what Jamarcus Ingram did. He was on the practice squad with the Bills for the first 2 years, and then he made the 53-man roster in his third year. Tyrell Shavers, can he do that? Practice squad with the Bills the first 2 years, and then going into year 3, this year, third year, can he crack the 53-man roster with that special teams appeal? Laviska Shenault, if he's going to make this roster, it's because 1, it's going to be his experience returning kicks and punts, and 2, with his time with Chris Tabor, special teams coordinator Chris Tabor in Carolina, all those years back. And then Jalen Virgil, and I guess Christian Wilkerson, just because he's been on a roster before. But I think this is mainly between Tyrell Shavers, Laviska Shenault, Jalen Virgil, and maybe KJ Hamler for the speed job. I think the top 2 right now are probably Jalen Virgil and Tyrell Shavers in that order, but I'm really paying attention to hold this depth roster battle. If they even keep 6, the number over the last handful of years has usually been 5, but again, those 5 don't really have special team appeal, ability, and upside, if you will, so we got to have someone cover kicks and punts. So, yeah. Now, OL9 spot. You guys might not care about this, but I think your top 8 offensive linemen are as follows. I'm not going to go over the 5 starters. We all know. I'll go over them quickly. Left tackle, Deion Dawkins. Left guard, David Edwards. Center, Connor McGovern. Right guard, Saibo Osiris Torrance. Right tackle, Spencer Brown. And then no particular order, here's the bench. In my opinion, at least. You have Alec Anderson as your 6th offensive lineman. You have Cedric Van Pan Granger as your 7th offensive lineman. You have Tyler Grable as your 8th offensive lineman. And then I think the 9th offensive line, maybe they keep 10. Maybe both Ryan Vandermark and Chase Lunt make the roster. But since they're both tackles, I highly doubt it. That would be kind of an overstuffed room if you ask me. So I think OL9, 9th offensive lineman battle is between Ryan Vandermark, who before last year was the swing tackle, has been in this room way more than Chase Lunt, and Chase Lunt. Chase Lunt has the draft pedigree and capital, but Alec Anderson has the experience. Ryan Vandermark, has the experience in the system, so that'll be interesting to watch and track. And then defensive end 2 job, kind of flying under the radar, were who gets the more snaps between Joey Bosa and AJ Epinesa. In my opposite, Greg Rousseau. In my opinion, I think they're going to rotate opposite Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau will always be in the field, majority of the time, never come off at that left side of the defensive line, left pass rusher end, if you will. Opposite him, in my opinion, I think on paper, technically, you know how they put up on the TV screen the starters? They go left to right, D-end, D-tackle, blah, blah, blah. I think AJ Epinesa will technically be the starter, but I think they're going to rotate quite a bit on that right side between AJ Epinesa, Joey Bosa, and Landon Jackson. Probably in that order, and then obviously Michael Hoyt after 6 games when he comes back from suspension. But right now, I'm really mainly looking to see, especially week 1, who gets more snaps, who technically is the starter on paper, on screen, literally and figuratively on the TV screen between AJ Epinesa and Joey Bosa. Really watching that, guys. Linebacker depth. I want Balen Spector, Budu off the roster really bad. He's always injured. Shaq Thompson, I was really excited for, but unfortunately he has a hamstring injury, and Eddie Ulofoshio, who is the only healthy one between the 3. But, I mean, I haven't heard a peep from him. It looks like he's pretty underwhelming in training camp. Because top 4 linebackers are locked, in my opinion. Matt Milano, starting weak side linebacker. Terrell Bernard, starting middle linebacker. Dorian Williams, backup weak side linebacker. And then Joe Andreessen is the backup middle linebacker. And I think it's Shaq Thompson's job to lose right now because he can play both weak side and wear the green dot and middle linebacker if break glass need be. I think it's Shaq Thompson's job to lose right now because of his experience with Sean McDermott, 31 years old, and just he's obviously not injured literally all the time like Balen Spector is, and Eddie Ulofoshio has been underwhelming. But mainly Shaq Thompson can play both linebacker spots, that being weak side linebacker and middle linebacker, if you will. So, yeah. DB depth, like corner and safety. There's a freaking lot to sort out here. So, in my opinion, the locks are as follows. I think CB1 will be Christian Benford. I think CB2 will be Troy White. Even if Max Hairston somehow returns a few days before week 1, I think he'll be a reserve, maybe coming in dime packages. Ain't no way. So, 2 starting outside corners, Christian Benford and Troy White. Starting slot corner, Taron Johnson. And then your bench. There's a lot to sort out here, okay? There's just a lot. You have Brandon Codrington, who I think the Bills would love to have to not roster. His only appeal is as a punt returner. And even last year, they healthy scratched him, if you will. He was a healthy scratch, if you will, because Khalil Shakir, they trusted Khalil Shakir at the punt return job. So The one thing Brandon Codrington's on this team for is punt return ability, but I think Elijah Moore can make the roster and be that. He's never really done the NFL before, but he did it a bunch in college at Ole Miss. And Brandon Codrington, if you're going to make the roster, you have to do more than just be a punt returner. He doesn't have a special teams offside. He doesn't cover kicks. He doesn't cover punts. He doesn't play corner. And when he does, even in last preseason, it was a complete freaking disaster. And he's tiny and athletic anyway. And then Jordan Hancock. I'm very intrigued by this guy versatility in this defensive backfield. Excuse me. And then Dane Jackson, who's just an incumbent veteran. Go back and there was in check receipts, if you will. I was never a big fan of this guy at all. Cam Lewis, who's just an older version of Jordan Hancock, obviously. And then Dorian Strong and Derek Forrest. I was kind of surprised to see not see as much buzz in training camp than Derek Forrest. He has athletic upside. He's more athletic than DeMar Hamlin. We'll see where Jordan Hancock and Cam Lewis play if they can both make the roster. But there's a bunch to sort out in this defensive backfield after the top 3 or 4 corners and after the top 2 starting safeties. 2 players in offense I'm looking forward to watching versus the Giants Saturday very much. I'm looking forward to watching wide receiver Tyrell Shavers. I explained the potential wide receiver 6 spot. In my opinion right now, they're down to 2 guys. If you were to ask me, Aiden right now, between Jalen Virgil and Tyrell Shavers, gun to my head, Aiden, who gets that 53rd spot, who gets that 6th wide receiver spot, assuming they do keep 6. I think it's Jalen Virgil because he's an excellent gunner. And Tyrell Shavers hasn't been rostered before. He's only been a practice squad guy going into year 3 at the Bills at the 2 previous years. And Jalen Virgil's actually been in quite a few 53-man rosters. So I would pick Jalen Virgil, but Tyrell Shavers I'm very much watching for the 3rd preseason in a row now. And then I'm kind of cheating here with 3 guys, I said 2, but these guys are at the same position technically, so it's fine. Bend my own rules here. Interior offensive lineman Kendrick Green and tackle Richard Garage. I'll start with Garage because I mentioned him at the ladder. Garage played next to Cybo Cyrus Torrance at Florida. So he has that going for him with the chemistry there. But I really like this guy who, going into year 3 with the Bills, he's been in the practice squad the last 2 years. Someone who I don't think he'll push for a 53-man roster because 1, I don't think they'll keep 10 offensive linemen, and 2, the 9th offensive lineman's it is down to just Ryan Vandermark versus Chase Lunt. But does Richard Garage show out in preseason to the point where he's claimed off waivers by another team? Teams are always looking for O linemen, especially in the preseason, going up to week 1. Veterans, young guys, whatever. Developmental youth, like Aaron Cromer does so much in Buffalo. So will they be able to get him back in the practice squad? And then interior offensive lineman Kendrick Green, he can play center, he can play guard. Think of a way lesser version of Alec Anderson in terms of his versatility. He's been able to find a starting spot the last 2 years with Steelers and Texans, but he hasn't been able to keep that starting spot, whether it's been injured, whether it's been straight benching. Again, Kendrick Green and Richard Garage, they're going to push, but I don't think at the end of the day they're going to make a roster. Richard Garage, I think maybe would get claimed off waivers if he has a really good preseason depth-wise. Kendrick Green, I'm almost certain he would get claimed off waivers. The Bills cut him, and that's a really attractable skill set in my opinion. But Aaron Cromer loves that developmental offensive lineman in preseason, so we'll see. My 2 players I'm most excited to watch on defense versus the Giants. Defensive end, Landon Jackson. So obviously there's a few guys ahead of him, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Joey Bosa. But like I just explained, opposite Greg Rousseau, whether it's week 1, whether it's middle of the season, towards the end of the season, whatever, I think they're going to rotate a lot opposite Greg Rousseau on the right side of the defensive line with Joey Bosa, AJ Epinesa, and Landon Jackson. You know they love to rotate, especially if you have an injury-prone 30-year-old older guy in Joey Bosa. Just okay enough high-end rotational guy in AJ Epinesa. And then a pretty high draft pick, a 3rd-round pick, in my opinion, was a steal. Not a steal, but very good value in Landon Jackson. I think those 3 guys will rotate. Maybe Javon Solomon gets some work here and there. And then Michael Hoyt can come into the rotation when he returns after injury. But I'm very excited to see how Landon Jackson, how much he plays in this preseason game versus the Giants and if he can make an impact. Because you see in Hard Knocks yesterday, he knows his sticks out right away. He's bald and huge, towers over everybody. So, yeah. And then DB Jordan Hancock. I say DB, defensive back, because he can play slot corner and safety. I think his main position is slot corner, so there's been some thought out there in the next 2 or 3 years. Can he succeed Taron Johnson? Because he is approaching 30 years old. I think he's like 28, 29 right now. Who knows? But can he succeed Taron Johnson? There's some thought out there that both Cam Lewis and Jordan Hancock can't make the roster because Jordan Hancock is just a younger version of Cam Lewis. And if it comes down to both those guys, you always want to go for the upside swing in a younger guy and a more versatile, athletic guy in Jordan Hancock. So we'll see. But I'm interested to see how do they utilize his versatility Saturday versus the Giants. Do they make him comfortable? Do they make him uncomfortable? Do they play him at slot corner? Do they play him at safety? Do they play him a lot on special teams? I don't know, but this is a really intriguing chess piece, if you will, just like Cam Lewis, just a younger version, obviously. And then one situation, I didn't have this on the sheet, but it just popped in my head. One situation I'm really looking for, not week 1, but this preseason game versus the Giants Saturday in particular, this one specifically, how do the defensive line snaps play out? So Greg Rousseau won't play. Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones won't play. How do the defensive line snaps shake out between D tackle TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, and Dwayne Carter? A ton of youth there. And then, does Larry Ogunjobi get into the mix? I know he'll be suspended for the first 6 games, but you don't want to keep him ice cold, if you will, for the first 6 weeks. So does he get into the mix? And then on the defensive end spot, how did the snaps shake out between Joey Bosa, AJ Epinesa, Landon Jackson, and then Javon Solomon's an intriguing depth piece I'm really excited for in year 2. He didn't play much last year, but when he did get on the field, you look at the pressure numbers, they were very good for the minimal amount of snaps he played. So I'm really intrigued by how do the defensive line snaps as a whole shake out Saturday. Just one position group and situation I'm looking into and keeping an eye on. Obviously, you have the youth, but obviously how much, if at all, do the suspended guys play in Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi. So anyways, guys, that is my Buffalo Bills versus New York Giants preseason game preview. Again, Saturday, August 9th, 1 o'clock p.m., nationally televised for everyone to see on NFL Network. I'm so glad to be back in preseason mode, number 1, but game preview mode, number 2, ramping up this podcast again. Summer was fun, but it's time to get back to football season and football weather. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. Couple plugs quick. Obviously, you can follow me on Twitter at @AWeingartner13. You can follow the show on Twitter. You can follow the show on Twitter at Around Slice for any scheduling updates, future episodes, Q&As, what have you. And you can, of course, listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. If you like a certain podcast app, more than likely we're on there. Check us out. And lastly, obviously, I've been a fantasy analyst since March now for Fantasy and Frames. Wonderful people over there. Awesome company. I actually just published a AFC 2025 Fantasy Football AFC East Division preview. So if you love football, if you love the AFC East, which if you watch this podcast, you do. If you love the Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, go check that out at fantasyandframes.com. We're going to be pumping out a ton of division previews this week and next week for all 8. Anyways, guys, with all that out of the way, I greatly appreciate you guys. Please let me know in the comments down below. What position group are you watching Saturday and this preseason going forward? What players are you looking to pop? What depth jobs are you looking for seeing how they unfold the most? They don't even have to be what I talked about today. Did I miss something? Let me know. And as always, like, subscribe, share this episode and channel with anyone and everyone you know. I appreciate you guys always. Thank you for the support. I will see you for the game recap a day or two after the game. Wins don't matter. Just looking for who pops. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great week. Enjoy the game. We're back. Bye.